Disclaimer! Throughout this video, I'm going to be using American pricing points, as even though I'm Canadian, most of my viewers are American. If you want to do the price conversions yourself, I'll include a link to one in the description. All prices are also rounded to the nearest dollar, for convenience sake. All prices for modern games are based on the retail prices, while all prices for older games are based on the mean from the bottom 3 listings I found on eBay and Amazon, for at the very least the game disc. Lastly, all prices include shipping because I'm not a fucking idiot. They do not, however, include sales tax, as that varies from location to location. Without further ado, let's begin. Hey there, I'm the Spectre, and if you couldn't tell by my other videos, I play almost nothing but Nintendo games. Because there are so many other great games out there, I decided I was going to look into getting a PlayStation 3. When I brought this up to my friends, they asked me why I was going to get a PS3 as opposed to a PS4. Because I'm a little bitch, I began thinking and bam, video. That's kind of how I come up with all my videos, to be honest. Now, a hardcore fan would want to buy every console from their favorite company. But what if you were new to the company, as I would be to Sony? Should you go with the latest and greatest console, or should you go back a generation and get some older games? Today, I'm going to convince you why the latter is clearly the best option. In this video, I'm only going to be discussing Sony and Nintendo games. This is because the Xbox One is backwards compatible with most Xbox 360 games, and a solid amount of Xbox games. So I believe if you're going to go into Microsoft, the Xbox One is your best bet, as its backwards compatibility renders the other Xboxes redundant. Alright, now it's time to get started with Nintendo. As I'm sure most of you are aware, the Switch is Nintendo's latest console, but with a price point of $300, most people are going to want something cheaper. Enter something that many people already have, the Wii. Sure, the Wii U is backwards compatible with the Wii, but the Wii is backwards compatible with the GameCube, and not only is the Wii cheaper, but most people will argue that the GameCube has a better library compared to the Wii U. So I believe that someone who wants to start playing Nintendo should get themselves a Wii. Most Wiis I've seen on eBay go for a measly $60 to $100, $200 to $240 cheaper than the Switch. This makes the Wii only a bit more expensive than a AAA game released today. Of course, the Wii's a great console for multiplayer, so the price of 3 additional Wiimotes and nunchucks as well as 4 GameCube controllers will cost you a total of $160, which is cheap as dirt considering you're getting 10 additional controllers. Combining that with the price of the Wii gives you a price point of $200 to $240, which is cheaper than the Switch with just the base controllers, let alone optimal multiplayer. If you want to play GameCube games, you're going to need an SD card, but I often see big ones go for a measly $30 to $40, which still makes this all cheaper than a base Switch. With all these in tow, you're ready to enjoy your new Wii to its fullest. Speaking of games, what's a console without them? Well, the Switch has an excellent library so far, so do the Wii and GameCube, and many of the best games on the Switch have solid counterparts on one of these two consoles. For example, take one of the Switch's biggest titles, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. While there isn't a big open Zelda game on other consoles, save for the Wii U I guess, you can play Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, and Skyward Sword on a Wii. Breath of the Wild goes for $60 in retail, while all 3 old Zelda games together cost $67 online. Only $7 more for triple the games. If you only want a couple Zelda games, Wind Waker goes for an average of $29, Twilight Princess for $16, and Skyward Sword for $22. Another one of the Switch's most notable titles is Super Mario Odyssey, which sold 2 million copies in launch weekend. While there isn't a super open game like Odyssey on Wii or GameCube, if you want an excellent 3D Mario, Super Mario Sunshine, Super Mario Galaxy, and Super Mario Galaxy 2 are all playable on a Wii. Odyssey, like other big titles released recently, costs 60 buckaroos in retail, while all 3 3D Mario games playable on the Wii cost only $56, even less than Odyssey. Of course, if you're interested in 1 or 2 of these games, Sunshine goes for an average of $26, Galaxy for $11, and Galaxy 2 for $19. Galaxy is my favorite game of all time, so if you do get a Wii, definitely pick it up, especially considering it's cheap as hell. As I stated before, multiplayer is key with Nintendo, and one of Nintendo's biggest multiplayer franchises is Super Smash Bros. Smash for Switch was announced recently, and while it isn't out yet, I'll be damned if it doesn't go for $60 in retail. Both Melee and Brawl are available on the Wii. However, most new players probably won't be super interested in competitive play, so Brawl's larger roster and overall bigger amount of content will seem much more attractive to new players, rendering Melee near useless, especially with Project M, more on that later. Brawl goes online for an average of a measly $19, less than a third of the new game. Sure, Brawl won't be anywhere near as good as the new game, but it certainly won't be bad, especially to a new player. But what if you want to fuck around with friends and don't like Smash? Mario Kart is a great option. While 8 Deluxe on the Switch will set you back $60, both Double Dash and Wii cost $46 together, or just $27 for Double D and $16 for Wii if you only want one. Both games together include 48 tracks, the same amount as 8 Deluxe, and that's not even taking into account the modding, which, wait, we're not supposed to talk about that yet? Okay. You better not leave that in. But what if you like sports? Well, then go outside. But if you're lazy, Mario's got plenty. On the Switch, you get the upcoming Mario Tennis Aces, which looks like a blast, but it will most likely cost $60. 3 times that of new Play Control Mario Tennis Open on the Wii, which goes for an average of $20 online. Xenoblade 2 is a good RPG, but you wanna know what's better? Xenoblade 1 on the Wii, available online for an average of $38, $22 cheaper than the Switch version, which retails for, surprise surprise, $60. But what if you're into traditional fighting games with Nintendo characters? Pokémon's got you covered if you have a Switch and $60, but if you don't have those, Soul Calibur 2 featuring Link will set you back an average of only $21 online. Sure, not as many Nintendo characters, but it's still a really solid fighting game. But what if you want challenging 2D platformers? Donkey Kong's got an answer for you. Tropical Freeze on the Switch costs fuck who'd have guessed, while Returns on the Wii will set you back $17 online, a measly third of the Switch game. Not quite as funky, but still pretty cool. Kirby is one of my favorite video game franchises, and his game on the Switch, while fun, was a bit disappointing, especially with that $60 price point. Thankfully, Return to Dreamland on the Wii, which goes for a much cheaper price of $34, is significantly more fun. Lastly, there's Rayman, Ubisoft's favorite franchise. Just kidding. Rayman Legends Definitive Edition will set you back $60, while Origins on the Wii is just over half, going online for an average of $16, a real steal. Those games there are only scratching the surface of Switch counterparts. Yeah, the Switch has some unique games, such as Mario + Rabbids or Splatoon 2, but the GameCube and Wii have some as well, including but definitely not limited to Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door, Super Paper Mario, Mario Parties 4 through 9, New Super Mario Bros. Wii, all the other Mario sports games, Kirby Air Ride, Kirby's Epic Yarn, Kirby's Dream Collection, Pikmin 1 and 2, F-Zero GX, Eternal Darkness, Metroid Prime 1, 2, 3, and other M, Wii Sports, Play, Fit and Party, Wii Sports Resort, Play, Motion, and Fit Plus, Donkey Kong Jungle Beat, Resident Evil 4, Tales of Symphonia, the list goes on and on and on and on and on. That covers Nintendo mostly, but what about Sony? As I stated earlier, I know nothing about Sony, so I've enlisted the help of a friend.
Hi, I'm Vath, and I'm Spectre's totally unpaid helper.
That makes it sound like you're being paid.
I am being paid.
They're not supposed to know that!
A brand new PlayStation 4 will cost you about $300, which is pretty expensive. PlayStation 3, on the other hand, will set you back roughly $100 online, which, while not as cheap as the Wii, is still a third of the price of the PS4. Add that to the fact that the PS3 is 100% backwards compatible with both the first and second PlayStations, and you sure have yourself a hell of a deal. Sure, some old games are available on PS4, but only some. And they're only available through a streaming service, so when PS4 servers are shut down, your library will be as well. That, and you have to trust Sony with your credit card info, and well, maybe not the greatest idea. If you want to play multiplayer, an additional controller will net you $25, bringing the total to $175 if you get the console and 3 controllers. Unlike the Wii, you are thankfully able to use the same controller for backwards compatibility, so you can save those precious pennies. As for games, the console is loads. The PS4's library is superb, but most titles aren't completely original. Considering there were 3 other PlayStations before it, most PS4 titles have counterparts on the PS1, 2, or 3. Take for example the Uncharted games, one of Sony's most popular IPs. A Thief's End and A Lost Legacy retail for $70 together, or $40 and $30 separately. Pretty good prices, but they can of course be beat by the original trilogy on PS3, going for a combined $41, or $10 for the first, $12 for the second, and $19 for the third. Infamous is another really popular series on Sony's consoles. Infamous First Light and Infamous Second Son for the PS4 together retail at a relatively cheap $29, or $12 and $17 respectively. The PS3 games, 1, 2, and Festival of Blood, sell for a total of $14, or $4 for the first and $5 for the latter too, and that's pretty freaking cheap for 3 games. Keeping up with the trend of popular franchises, God of War. Oh boy. The brand new God of War for PS4 retails for $60.
Of fucking course.
While God of War Saga on PS3, containing 5 games, will cost an average of $43 online. Not a significant amount cheaper, but when you're considering you're getting 5 times the God of War fun, it's a fucking robbery. Ratchet & Clank, popular platformers on PlayStation, say that 5 times fast, got a new game back in 2016 for the PS4, which retails at a really cheap $20. Ratchet & Clank collection goes for $25 on PS3. Now I know you must be thinking that's $5 more, but you get triple the games and it's already pretty cheap on both consoles, so it's still a really good price. Yet another popular Sony franchise is The Last of Us. The Last of Us 2 has yet to be released, but considering what most AAA games go for at launch, it's a safe bet that it'll cost $60. The original on PS3, however, goes for an average of $10 online, a whopping 1/6 of the original. Of course, the console and its predecessors have many great games PS4 doesn't as well, such as Bomberman Ultra, Little Big Planet 1 and 2, MotorStorm, Jet Moto 2, Cybersled, Gran Turismo 5 and 6, Metal Gear Solid 4, and boatloads more.
All of these together sound amazing. Cheap games on a cheap console for way cheaper than the not cheap consoles of today's cheap world. But there is one more thing we haven't mentioned. Modding. Well, yes, it is possible to mod a newer console. It is much more difficult to do, you'll likely get banned from online, and it's much more expensive to replace a bricked console. Meanwhile, the 7th generation consoles have been around for more than 10 years, so people really know how to hack them. The Wii was easy as hell to mod. As easy as taking virginity from a baby. Virginity's a candy, right? By downloading the Homebrew channel, you get easy access to a boatload of mods. Sound and visual mods are easy to not only get but create as well for nearly every game. Level design hacks are also very possible due to the Wii's easy to hack nature. Like with any other console, a bevy of retro emulators are available to you through some downloads. You can also gain access to fan servers and play your favorite games such as Mario Kart Wii online again, despite the servers having been shut down 4 years ago. And then there are the big boys, huge fan projects. Project M, which I mentioned earlier, is a hack of Super Smash Bros. Brawl that makes things play more like Melee and adds a few new characters and stages. Mario Kart Wii Custom Track Grand Prix adds a whopping 200 plus additional tracks to the game. Sure, most of them aren't of Nintendo quality, but a lot of them are still fun to race on. If you instead want something that is not on par but instead greater than what Nintendo can make, check out newer Super Mario Bros. Wii, a full game hack of New Super Mario Bros. Wii, with tons of fun levels, with level design that not only rivals Nintendo levels, but is significantly more unique than anything the New Super Mario Bros. Games could dream of. This is just a tip of the holy shit iceberg when it comes to a homebrewed Wii.
Similarly to the Wii, emulators were a really big thing you could do with the homebrew PS3. You could even emulate stuff that isn't Sony, like old Nintendo consoles. You're also able to host special private servers on most online games. These private servers can have game mods in them to make your games feel like new again. You're also able to run unsigned code, allowing you to develop fan projects for the PlayStation 3.
These mods are excellent, but you must be wondering, dear viewer, How much do these mods cost? As much as the SD card you used to download them onto. That's right. For all this shit, all you need is about 20 bucks for a decent SD card. That's it. That's all. Everything is otherwise free.
Now, I'm sure what most of you are thinking. There's one huge factor that you forgot, said the keyboard warrior. Indie games. New consoles of indie games that are cheap and of high quality, just like the ones on old systems. You, my not so dear keyboard warrior, would be right. But you know what else can play most indie games? Something that nearly everyone has lying around? Both Macs and PCs can download Steam. Sure, a lot of computers may have difficulty processing the $60 AAA titles, but smaller indie games can run well on nearly any computer. Owning both any old computer and a 7th generation console gives you access to a massive pool of games, enough to keep you busy for years, maybe even decades. This renders the expensive as hell new stuff mostly useless to anyone who isn't a hardcore gaming fan.
In conclusion, the 7th generation is absolutely excellent. Cheap consoles, cheaper games, and modding makes them just as good, maybe even better than today's big boys. If you are looking into gaming, get a 7th gen console. If you have a friend looking into gaming, share this video with them. I'm sure it'll help. This has been the Spark Spectre, and remember to have fun, stay safe, and Vath left without his money.